Recording in progress.
Welcome in to the latest episode of Betting the Pitch podcast. I'm your host, Real_G Warner. Tonight, we'll be going through the Europa League, leg 2 of the quarterfinals. We are 40 and 16, 71% year to date on our best bets. Done some grading over the last few days. What I do is I put all my picks that I go through, or all the games we go through, I pick out my favorites, smash them all together across multiple leagues. Tonight will be a little bit different as we have all Europa League, all kicking off at the same time, 2 p.m. Central Time on Thursday, April 17th, 3 p.m. Eastern Time, I think 9 p.m. local time across Europe, depending on which country you're in. But we're going to go through all those matches in the Europa League, going to go through the 2 advanced numbers and try to get you an idea of what I expect to happen. I did watch all of these rounds of matches in the first legs, and hopefully I can add that in. Also just tweeted it out. So if anyone is wanting to join us live, it's a lot earlier than I have been doing these in the past, trying to do that based on some commentary in the Apple Podcast realm. If you're not subscribed to the podcast, please do so on Apple Podcasts. It's called Betting the Pitch. If you are not subscribed on YouTube, if that's where you're watching, go to @thereal_G Warner, where you can also get 1-minute videos where I summarize my best bet, usually across all 5 European soccer leagues or across multiple days of Champions League. Instead, for Europa League, they're all smashed into one window. Hopefully I'm not muted. Let's check the audio levels. Pro move there by me. I think we're looking okay. Yes, okay. Looks like I hope I don't go through an entire episode and then have to re-record it. That would be not super fun. But hopefully some people come into the comments and tell me if I'm muted. But anyway, for those of you, I guess, watching or listening after the fact, just know that if you're hearing this now, then hopefully it worked. But yeah, so I'm going to go through the one lone window of Europa League, pick out a best bet and try to improve on a 40 and 16, 71% year to date. Of course, any and all questions are accepted. And if you want to throw something in your 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify, if I see it, I will read it, or I'll have one of my co-hosts, if it's relevant to them, I'll have them read it. We are doing a baseball podcast. Couldn't get one out last night, unfortunately. But we will be going through the rest of the season, hopefully. I just need to get on A. Brooks Bet's schedule. Don't see any new comments, so go in there, leave 1 5-star review. You have no competition, and we'll get into the lines right now. So we'll start on Thursday, as all these matches are. I'll be picking one best bet from all of these options as my favorite. Could be a 2 advanced number after we cash Inter Milan today. Could be a side, could be a total, as most of you know, at Joe Dollar, a longtime Patreon subscriber, patreon.com/real_G Warner. He always wants me to get on the overside of things, but that's not who I am. And it's hard for a cheetah or a leopard or myself to change my spots. So we'll start with Athletic Club Bilbao. They're 1.25 goal favorites at home to Rangers. Juice is all over the Athletic Club Bilbao side. Could be climbing to 1.5 before kickoff. Totals 2 3/4, juice all the way to over, and could be climbing to 3 before kickoff. So I was interested in a low-scoring game in this first match, and that's what we got. Goalless draw. A lot because Rangers took a red card. One of their central defenders, Davy Proper, I want to say. Maybe not Davy, but something like that. Proper. I have him previously with a head injury that bothered him against Fenerbahce, but then took a red card, and that was that. Early in the match, but Rangers, unfortunately, they kind of wasted their home leg. But I think if you could give a team with 10 players against one of the best clubs in Spain a far higher budgeted league than Scotland, the Scottish Premier League, I think you probably take the 0-0 draw if you're Rangers management, who's looks like an absolute scrub in terms of hairstyle and patchy beard, which I guess is hard for a lot of people to grow beards. So maybe I shouldn't be that slighting of somebody else who's trying to join the beard gang. But just like the most dressed suit possible, like Peaky Blinders style, with some guy looked like he was just mugged someone on the street. But that's the manager of Rangers. Certainly not Philippe Clement, formerly of Monaco, bald guy with no facial hair that I can recall. And I got to say, might have been a masterclass in managing, considering to get a goalless draw as a big underdog, even at home in the Europa League. was well done. And I think Rangers now go on the road, certainly without that center back. Probably will not be playing as he's suspended. But the goal is to try to keep Athletic Club Bilbao out as long as possible. If you can make it 90 minutes, you can guarantee yourself 30 more. Then you can maybe get to penalty kicks, and that's huge for Rangers. They are huge underdogs here, though. So Rangers, I'd bet as a +1 underdog with an under 3. Bet both of them correlated, but not parlayed when they went to Manchester United. And their goalkeeper punched a corner kick into his own net. Huge mistake for the first goal of the match. Rangers end up equalizing, and then a late goal from Bruno Fernandes, I believe, for Manchester United. And that was resulted in a push on both the side and total. Not one of my favorite last few minutes of the game, especially because there's no goal scoring until a goalkeeper error. Well, Rangers went out on a limb and benched Jack Butland, the starting goalkeeper who had been in the position to punch a ball in the back of his net worth I think 4 times as much as his backup, a 29-year-old journeyman signed from another club I'd never heard of. So I'm curious to see if Butland returns to goal here in this matchup. I still think he's a better goalkeeper. I think had been around Manchester United, if I'm not mistaken, a few seasons ago. You could argue that maybe he was trying to help his own club out, but I don't think he was. I think he's more worried about keeping his job. And I don't know that anyone really thought it was under threat. I think it was announced early, but it was still a big surprise when the lineups came out. So the big question is, how are Rangers going to play down a center back, which there's not a ton of depth in the Scottish Premier League lineup compared to what you'd see in Athletic Club Bilbao and La Liga, in Spanish La Liga's side. But at this point, I think Rangers are going to go and try to keep this game 0-0 as long as possible. They already made it 90 minutes. Athletic Club Bilbao are a defensive club, have been more offensive because their talent is so significant and so great this year. But I think the big question is how do Athletic Club break through a low block, break through a low block, enunciation, unique New York, our now brown cow. And I think the big question is, Athletic Club have so much talent, so they should be able to, but it's going to take a lot of dribbling from the wings at 10 men behind the ball, 11 if you include the goalkeeper. So I think we see a low-scoring match here. It's going to be hard for Rangers to score anything of size on a counterattack, which they do have some ability. And I feel like the best club in each league is better than I think when most bettors look down upon a smaller league like the Scottish Premier League. Certainly not the same budgets, but there's talent there. There's a reason why Rangers have made it to the quarterfinals of the Europa League. We're underdogs last round, I believe, to Fenerbahce, but still, I believe in the Ibrox crowd at home. They were huge to keep them level with down a man for most of the match. And Rangers do travel really well. There'll probably be a lot of fights in Bilbao, hopefully no stabbings, because that seems to be a European thing. Here in America, I guess we just shoot each other, but not that that's better. But at the same time, I think there's a lot of questions about Athletic Club, as they're usually the more defensive side trying to counterattack. That will not work against Rangers, because they will let you counterattack, because there won't be anything to counterattack, I don't think, unless you counterattack a counterattack. But that's hard to do, and really doesn't mean that Rangers will be too far out of position. So low-scoring match that always makes you point towards under and to the underdog. I think away from home, the issues for Rangers as a 1.25 goal underdog is if they fall behind by a goal, they are sending that goalkeeper up late to try to get an equalizer. And that is a big problem, more for the underdog than the under, but big problem for both. That's a relatively low probability event, and a goal being scored in that scenario is not guaranteed by any means. But I think those are things to think about. And that probably puts me more interested in the RFC, or Rangers Football Club, under 2 3/4, the current price, as opposed more so than the 1.25 underdog price. Both of these look like they're climbing. I think we could get 3 on Athletic Club, and that's probably on the total, and that's probably the biggest interest for me, more so than a 1.5 would be. I just don't expect Rangers to score or to score 2 goals. And I think if Rangers score, that certainly puts the under at threat and definitely helps the side, of course. But I think a 3-0 victory for Athletic Club is possible here. I think Rangers are going to be devastated by the first goal whenever it goes in. But the longer it takes, we saw Inter Milan and Bayern München with an under today, goalless through 52 minutes, and they scored 4 goals in 26. But at the same time, the talent on this pitch is way different than that one. You could argue the defensive talent is much better on that one too. But I think we have one team that is looking to defend, one team that's looking to score, but has really had a lot of defense in their past and their program or in their club and their style. So I like the under in that matchup probably the most. Before I get off this one, I'll talk about two advanced numbers. So let's go to Rangers plus 415 to advance here, minus 600 to Athletic Bilbao. So 600 US will win you 100. In terms of how this number has moved, so initially, I'm in the wrong. Hold on, give me 1 second. I got to switch spreadsheets. Okay, so Rangers were plus 4, so they were initially plus 330 heading in to kickoff. I don't think anything really moved. So they've climbed 20%. The juice on Athletic Club from minus 450 to minus 600, or 6-1 on, or 1-6 is an increase of 25%, or a decrease, I guess, in terms of your payout. So Athletic Club should be a bigger favorite. They're at home for this leg, and they get to face a team that's missing their best defender or one of their top 2 starting center backs. That's a big problem, but we'll see. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game, and that gives Rangers a definite chance. Okay, so as soon as I get my mouse off my iPad, I don't know how that happened. Okay, we're back. Okay, so we'll move now. See if we have any comments in here. Nothing yet. Okay, so we'll move next to Eintracht Frankfurt and Tottenham Hotspur. Currently, Eintracht Frankfurt, a quarter goal favorite at home. All the juice on Tottenham away. Total is 3 in this one. Juice all the way to under. All the juice on the Tottenham side. Probably vacillating, oscillating, depending if you're a fan or not. From pick'em to a quarter goal favorites will be Eintracht Frankfurt at home. I don't think Tottenham will move to a favorite. I think we'll see this line kind of jockey between. And so this is a 1-1 draw in North London in the first leg. Eintracht Frankfurt, they were one of the best teams in Germany, consistently consistently outperforming as well, and have been sitting in third place in the German Bundesliga for a lot this season. Then they sold Omar Mamouche. They've been hanging on to their position, but hasn't been easy. They don't look that strong to me. And honestly, they were kind of a counterattacking defensive side that have had some defensive issues. That's been their limitations, I think. But those were their limitations, especially because Omar Mamouche was killing goals. He's still one of the top on the leaderboard of goal efficiency numbers across the Bundesliga, and he's been missing for a couple months now. So that's a huge hole in Eintracht Frankfurt. Ugo Ekitike, huge talent signed from Paris Saint-Germain and the French national team. He's awesome, but I think was really, really good and was kind of blossoming because he had Omar Mamouche there with him. Without him, it's been different. He had a good goal recently, but it's still a little bit hard to trust. And then the Tottenham side, before we get there, I'll close off Eintracht Frankfurt. They've had some goalkeeper issues with Kevin Trapp, their former PSG player as well. Been all around Germany. I think came out from Hamburg, I want to say, who have, I guess, a really long-standing history of goalkeepers, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. At @the_Real_G Warner on YouTube, Instagram, Patreon, Twitter, everywhere. I'd love to make sure I'm saying the right things. I think that's the case, unless it was Kaiserslautern. But anyway, there's some German goalkeepers that come from one place. It might be Kaiserslautern. Anyway, Kevin Trapp, current goalkeeper, good. Santos, who's I think a Brazilian, has filled in his backup, has been serviceable, not so bad. I don't think if Kevin Trapp is out for this match, that means we rush to bet Tottenham. And I think there's some issues for Tottenham, and that's why we don't do that. So draw in the first leg, not great, especially for a English Premier League club with huge buku bucks compared to the German Bundesliga. I'm sure it has not been very good in the media. Though I've seen James Madison post matches just saying, it's not like we're going to get any thanks when we get over to clap our fans when they travel to support us. Usually they're just yelling at us. But I guess that's accepted fan culture in Europe, specifically in England. I think in Germany, they definitely get harsh with you, but I think there's a lot more support there. And Tottenham have to go to Eintracht Frankfurt and deal with that. Eintracht Frankfurt are awesome away from home. They travel so well. I think they're honestly a little underwhelming at home because they do so much away. But the big question here is where do the goals come from? How do they come? Do they flow? So Eintracht Frankfurt is a quarter goal favorite. They need to win to cover the spread. 3 goals is what to me feels like a pretty big total in the second leg, but we've seen Champions League goals going left and right. Plus, these are two teams that are not, I think, strongest in defense, and Tottenham play a style that just puts them under huge pressure. The big difference for Tottenham, I think, is that they have what looks like a healthy backline defensively, at least the most 2 important positions, Mickey van de Ven, formerly of VfL Wolfsburg, from the German Bundesliga, who's one of the fastest defenders I've ever seen. And he's been out of the lineup or in and out of the lineup all season alongside Christian Romero. They've been a great partnership, and I think they make the Ange style playable. Without them and with Ben Davis filling in for injured players, that's clearly not worked. And I think it's going to get Ange Postecoglou the slack because I don't think he's going to win the Europa League. I think it's going to be too hard for them to do it, even if they get past Eintracht Frankfurt. But they should be an underdog to advance. And I'll bring up that number now. So Tottenham currently plus 106 to advance. So you get odds to pick them. Certainly makes sense away from home. As to the Eintracht Frankfurt side, they're minus 130. So 130 US will win you 100, or I guess 130, whatever shekels you throw out there. From where this number has moved. So Eintracht Frankfurt, they opened a plus 103 underdog, climbed to plus 120 to 122 to 128. Now they've dropped to minus 130, a change of 200%, but I think my numbers are off when it switches from positive odds to negative. Oops. And that's going to be the same thing for Tottenham. They were minus 125 to minus 145 to minus 152 and climbed to minus 155. So that is an implied probability of about 61% for Tottenham to get through, which clearly has changed. And now they're less than 50, and they should be, as they have no aggregate advantage and are on the road against a really tough crowd. I think the question for Tottenham, because clearly they've given up on the Premier League, or at least they say it matters to them, but the lineups and how they use their players certainly does not suggest that. This is the biggest competition for them. Eintracht Frankfurt are pretty safe in Champions League in the Bundesliga, but not confirmed yet by any means. So there's a lot on the line here. I think both know that a Champions League berth would be incredible. One, probably essential for Ange Postecoglou to keep his job. From the Eintracht Frankfurt side, it'd be nice to have, I think, but the league standings probably puts them in a better place. And I really rather have the less desperate team. I think desperation can work in some scenarios, not so much in the dating world or in the club at 1:45 for a 2 a.m. close, or back when I was in New York City, I was like, oh my God, if I don't have a girl by 2, I need to leave because nothing good happens. Well, a lot of good things happen after 2 a.m., but certainly not in a bar when literally you see this entire just Shark Tank of men just going in after the like 1 or 2 single women that are still around. Anyway, probably more than anyone wanted to hear. But thank you for those of you that are live here and with us. But I think from an Eintracht Frankfurt Tottenham perspective, since this is a betting the pitch show, I think we could see a low scoring match here. I like the push on 3. It's very juiced at the moment to the under. At 2 3/4, it's probably enough for me to skip. I think I'm interested still in that under 3. And I guess I like the underdog here, but it's not a strong lean at the moment. So I'll put Tottenham on there at a 1/4 of a goal underdog. Looks like they could fall to pick them at that point. I think I like Eintracht Frankfurt a lot more. So I'll just delete that and say I'll like under 3 on current numbers. And honestly, I'm waiting for Eintracht Frankfurt to move to a pick 'em. Juice certainly looks like it could do that. The UK dominance financially, or just maybe the market that just likes to bet Premier League teams because they're worth more money, that could come in real good handy, or come in handy here. And we could bet Eintracht Frankfurt at home, where a draw moving to extra time would be your money back. I think there's a good chance Eintracht Frankfurt win this match, advance. So I'm interested, certainly, if they move down to a pick 'em, even if it's juiced or fairly expensive. We move next to Manchester United and the shirt I'm wearing, Olympique Lyonnais. An incredible first leg, 2-2 on aggregate heading to Manchester. First match was played in Lyon in southeastern France, a place that I had visited and got this shirt a couple years ago. Thank you for those of you that are coming in live. If you have any comments, feel free to throw them in here, and I'm happy to go through whatever you'd like. But Lyon, so dominant game, took a lead, conceded an equalizer, I think, early in the second half, or maybe end of first half, and then were dominating the game, had all the ball. Manchester United were literally just in their own box trying to protect themselves, and one counterattack or just maybe turnover in possession. I guess you could a cross, if you will, but just maybe a lofted ball to the back post. And Joshua Zirkzee scores on a header, and everything is like, oh my God, Olympique Lyonnais dominated this game, got nothing from it. They're going to lose. They're going to travel to England with a goal disadvantage on aggregate, and it's going to be curtains. They're out of the Europa League. Well, They then scored with one of the last kicks of the match. I think I'm at like 70 plus losses in extra time in the second half versus wins. But I'll take one of the 12 or 14 or something like that I have. That's one of the more painful things I've been trying to keep up with grading my performance this season. And that's not been a fun part. I'll put it that way, because it is not a fair fight at this moment, which I guess happens with unders, of course, and that being the lifestyle. But Lyon, currently 3/4 goal underdogs, a little bit more juice on the road at Manchester United. Total is 3 in this one, juiced pretty heavily to under. I'll get the 2 advanced numbers in a second. So Lyon with a huge rescue goal to equalize at home. Good for the best bet I put out there last week. I got to say, thank you for that, Lyon. But at the same time, really important also for, I guess, for everything, just for how things work or something like that. And I think Manchester United, I mean, they've been a really great team to bet under for a lot of the season. Defense has been okay, not great, but I think it's been just a referendum on a poor offense. And Manchester United need to win, and they need to win by multiple goals to take your full unit here. So the big question is, can Lyon travel across the English Channel? Luckily, don't have to worry about any cannon fire, but the cannon fire they need to worry about is a Manchester United crowd, which has been, I think, all over the place this year, not very supportive, but has been, I think, coming around as of late. And certainly, I think they realize this is their chance to get into Champions League. It is their only one, so this is how they do it, and they band together. But I do feel like a united, cohesive team is important, and I feel like that's the same for a crowd base. It's weird for them to all of a sudden support after they haven't for most of the season. And Lyon, they're going to have a lot of traveling supporters that go across, and they're probably going to be dwarfed by the amount of English support there. But at the same time, I think there's some unity that comes from a road trip. I'm interested in Lyon. I'd love to get a full goal of insurance to protect against a single goal loss away. I don't think we'll get that number. The juice certainly doesn't point that way, but the UK bettor is strong and mighty and loves betting Premier League sides. So I'll be waiting to see if that happens. As for the total, felt like we had a low-scoring game all over it, and then 2 late goals, I think 88th minute and 95th. That's what sent it over in the first leg. We could see that same sort of thing happen again, but I think with tied on aggregate, I think it's less likely that you're going to see a huge attempt for a road underdog to have to bust out and try to score a bunch of goals. I don't know how much can be taken from Champions League action this week, but there are a lot of goals scored there. I'm not sure that was all deserved, and a lot was based on how big the deficits were. Borussia Dortmund having to come out and score a ton of goals to equalize Barcelona, which they never did. Real Madrid having to do the same against Arsenal, but Arsenal kind of controlled the whole match, and great performance by Arsenal away from home. I think in this case, there's not the same level of talent or ability or cohesiveness or even clue at these clubs. They're playing in Europa League for a reason, but I think Lyon, I mean, you could talk about desperation for Tottenham. There's also a lot for Lyon, but it's, I think, more surrounding the owner. I think it's filtered into the players a little bit because they know every match is essential for them to collect as much money as possible to stay out of some financial fair play rules or whatever they call them in Ligue 1 in France. And they're in some trouble there. And every round they advance here, if they can win a trophy and get into, guarantee them some funds for next year, that put them, their contracts, in a much better position instead of having to scurry across the world. But most of these young guys are kids. Besides Alexander Lacazette, pretty much everyone's young and is probably used to trying to grow into a bigger club at a bigger country that pays more money, et cetera, et cetera. With all that said, and there's a lot of it, of course, I like Lyon, 3/4 goal underdog, and I like under 3. As for to advanced number, we have Lyon plus 215 to Manchester United minus 275. Yeah, of course, there's some discrepancies or some handle involved there. Lyon were plus 146 at home initially. I think a lot based on the second leg being away, but also being a home underdog. 146 climbed to 165, an increase of 11.5%. We're now up 23% from the previous 165 close. But 215, not shocking. It's around what Bayern München were priced, and they were a goal behind going on the road to Inter, which Lyon are a much better position than that. But also, I think there's a lot more belief and faith in Bayern München, and they were Bayern were a favorite in the first leg, even though they were at home. So Inter were an underdog away, as they probably should have been. Lyon were at home an underdog. Anyway, it's hard to compare apples and oranges, I guess. But regardless, I think there's some value on Lyon if you haven't played them. The problem is they're going away from home in extra time when they're gasping for air, running on fumes. Manchester United crowd, that's probably the most important place they could be, though Lyon would have covered the spread, getting a draw to force extra time. And then in penalties, they're a crapshoot. Apparently they're 50-50, but I've lost my last 4 in a row with 2 advanced numbers. So we'll see. I'll believe that when I see it. Probably just bad luck, but it doesn't feel that way at this point. I think there's probably more value in backing Lyon during regulation to try to force extra time than to play them to advance. So the plus 215, I'll never really say anything about someone trying to take some odds and having something to root for. So that does it for the third match of 4. We still have 1 left to go. I'm checking to see if any comments have come in. Thank you to those of you that are with us live. I realize probably better timing is probably better for the live viewers, but and I would love to know if you want to watch live as opposed to listening on Apple Podcasts, Betting the Pitch, or Spotify, Betting the Pitch, or on YouTube at @TheReal_G Warner. I would love to know that, and I might do a little bit different in my schedules. Try to get this out earlier to give it so that people don't have to be up at 1 a.m. or something like that if you want to be here. Last that we'll go to is Lazio hosting Bodo Glimt. Currently, Lazio 1.5 goal favorites. All the juice on Bodo Glimt. Total is 3, and it's juiced a little bit more to under. So this was the big surprise, I think, of the first leg of Europa League. Bodo Glimt, they were playing in an earlier match, I think, because they play in Norway and it's freezing cold and all these sort of things. But there's not a lot of light there, of course. But they won 2-0 over Lazio side that were maybe focused on Roma this weekend in the Derby di Capitale in Rome against Roma. And you'll always see that they will go all out for that, especially as you could argue the less populous club in Rome, maybe I don't want to say second club because that would get me in big trouble. And I do have a Roma, thing behind me, so I'm not trying to start any fights, Lazio fans. I've certainly bet Lazio more than I've bet Roma this season. I'll say that. But I think the big question is, can Lazio overturn a 2-goal deficit? Bodo Glimt, they've been a high-scoring team, I think, over the years of the competitions in Europe. I'm not saying I know them very well. I know they play on artificial turf. I've watched a few of their matches this season, going back to last year. I think they were in the Conference League, or at least have been kind of floating around. I sometimes confuse them with Danish club Michelin. But Bodo Glimt have been around and have been, I think, a better club that no one expects ever to perform, and they always do. They have Jens Petter Hauge, who had played for Eintracht Frankfurt, but really wasn't playing too much and ended up moving back, moved to Germany, then moved back to Bodo Glimt. But the big question, Lazio, they were so good to start the season. We're killing it in Serie A. We're, I think, top of the table in the Europa League. I think we're the 1 seed after league play. But things haven't looked great for them as of late. I feel like they've kind of run out of gas, maybe injuries, and a lot of things have kind of come into play. And they got to go balls to the wall and win this match. And then they also have to win it by a margin to try to avoid extra time. 2-goal advantage will get them extra time. I'm sure they don't want that. I think if anything, at Joe Dollar, you say it all the time. You want me to bet some overs. This is probably the over on the entire list, and that is over 3 goals. Lazio Bodo Glimt. It's not really my style, I will admit. It feels a little weird advocating something like that. But Bodo Glimt, they're not certainly on the level of Lazio. Certainly not defensive abilities as Lazio. I think the effort will be there because they're trying to protect the 2-0 lead. But things could go pretty wrong pretty fast. And I do feel like Lazio are under a little bit of threat to counterattacks and such because they're going to have to be pushing from minute 1. I think if Lazio get the first goal, that's a big deal. If Bodo Glimt get the first goal, then I think we see a ton of goals coming in because Lazio are going to have to go for it, and they're going to literally be throwing everything and their goalkeeper forward, probably not exactly until the end if it's necessary. But still, I think there's probably a wide range of outcomes in this one, which makes the 1.5 goal underdog a little bit less attractive because Lazio is certainly trying to win by 3 goals to not have to go to extra time. But I think we have a very competitive match here. I'll go Bodo Glimt over 3 just so Joe Dollar can feel like he's gotten one this season. So that is what I guess I got 2 advanced number as well. Sorry, can't forget that. I want to close and tie this off the perfect way, if that's even possible. But Buda Glimt, so they were. I was forgetting this. I got lost. Okay, so Buda Glimt, they were plus 360 to advance, down to plus 320, drop of 12.5%. Lazio minus 500. 1-5 or 5-1 on. That dropped to minus 450, a decrease of about 11%. Now they've completely crossed zero. They're now 433% different, plus 135 to advance are Lazio. I think if you like Lazio and you want to play them, interesting thing, if you play minus 1.5, that is getting odds. Lazio would need to advance, they need to win by 3 goals in regulation. To force extra time, they may not advance. They need to win by 2 goals. And that means plus 102 would cover on your full game spread bet. So to only get 33 more cents on a dollar for Lazio to advance, which requires a 3-goal lead, or to win in extra time, or to win in penalties, that doesn't seem worth it. I feel like if you like Lazio to advance here, you should play Lazio minus 1.5 as the side. I'm not sure that's what I'm advocating or I'm interested in, but just saying, I think if you're considering those 2 things, I think you go with the plus odds on both of them, which is always the way to go, I think. Certainly in this sport where there's a lot of juice, I think selling things to try to get not incredibly different things. Like I wouldn't play a favorite of minus 3/4 of a goal and sell it to -1 because you're pushing in that scenario. But I also have done a lot of selling of like half of a goal underdogs and playing plus 1/4 instead at plus money to try to reduce the amount of outlaid juice so far for me this season. But to everyone, your choice. And at the @real_G Warner across Instagram, Patreon, Twitter, and on YouTube, if you want to chat it out, I'd love to talk about it. I love talking shop if that interests you. But yeah, so Lazio, I think if you like them to advance, you play the spread in the full game and don't worry about getting an extra 30% because I don't think that's necessarily worth it. Though someone, if you want to correct my math, feel free, go ahead and do it. Okay, so it's time for the ultimate best bet. I think we've made it through the show. Thank you all of you for driving in. Just kidding. Joining in is probably a better way to put that. I do have my phone ready. I have the record in front of me. Things to plug. We will be doing a Thursday night podcast discussing the Friday baseball card with @Munaf Manji or @SportsNews824 on the pregame.com podcast network. Look for that on Pregame Now. I'm expecting Tuesday a reintroduction into the wild at A Brooks Bets on the baseball betting the pitch version. And then expect a weekend show for this weekend's top 5 European soccer leagues and hopefully another weekend of winners. So let me get everything set up and let's get into it. So I make sure I have this all right. And I think so. Hey, this is @real_G Warner on Instagram, Patreon, Twitter, and on YouTube. This is the ultimate best bet for the Betting the Pitch soccer podcast. We're 40-16, 71% of our best bets this season. I usually go through the top 5 European soccer leagues or each day of Champions League. In this case, this is Europa League show. We only have one window of all games starting at the same time. So I've got one choice. This is the best one. Take Olympique Lyonnais, as I'm wearing their shirt from a team store outside of a place where some guy got guillotined, I think. But Lyon under 3 goals on the road at Manchester United. I'd love to see a +1 and potentially play the side as well. But I think the push on 3 is important. I don't believe in Manchester United scoring goals. I think Lyon deserved a much better result than a 2-2 draw in the first leg, dominated the game, just couldn't find a goal, and then got one late after conceding 2 in a row after taking the initial lead. But I think we see a low-scoring match here. It's a way to fade Manchester United and bet Lyon, French side, to go in and potentially shock the world. And that'll do it for this episode. Thank you all for tuning in. I hope to see you on the next version, likely coming in tomorrow night for Major League Baseball, the Friday card, and then next week, more Major League Baseball on Tuesday. And of course, all weekend soccer stuff on this channel, Betting the Pitch on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify, @real_G Warner on YouTube and on Instagram if you want the 1-minute video, which I will chop and put out tomorrow. Thanks for joining. Hope to talk to you all very soon, and let's win some money.
Recording stopped.